knowing what's happening because I can't see what you're seeing. Let's see, slideshow. Are you seeing this?
Yep. Yes.
Slideshow.
Okay. All righty. I've got some information kinds of things to start out with. Wait a second here. Yeah, okay. The first one is the meetings that we'll have in fall. David, if you've got some suggestions on changes, that's fine, but this is what I know so far. First of all, Wednesday, September 15th, we're going to have a, I don't know what to call it. It's not really a presentation, but we're going to talk quite a bit about it in a few minutes. A program called Ask the Experts. I'm going to try to get all of you involved in. The second one is about a month from now, our Zoom meeting. Unfortunately, it looks like we could be Zooming this for quite a while more. I had talked to Dave about the bank. God, it seems like it's been about 2 months ago. He'd be fine to have it there as soon as this COVID thing is under control, but that ain't the case now.
So should that be September 22nd?
Oh, geez, yes.
Okay.
I always make something to see if you catch when I make a mistake. Yeah, it should be September 22nd. The third thing is, and this is something we talked about, I think 2 months ago, we didn't do it last month, and that is, should we have a photo shoot? And essentially, where should we, if we should have a photo shoot, where should we have it? Let me do it this way, because for some of you that are new, it might be a good practice. Send a message, a chat to David to say whether you would like to have a photo shoot and whether you would like to have it in as sunrise. And if you like, and if we had one, would you like to have it for breakfast? Gives you a chance to check that out. And David, can you keep track of that?
Sure.
Did Dornan's ever open for breakfast this summer? Because there was a time when they were not. My understanding was they had staff shortages and the chuck wagon was not open for breakfast.
Yeah, I don't
know.
I don't think they ever opened for breakfast this summer, but
Okay.
I could be wrong. I mean, it's every restaurant's short staffed this year, so.
Okay, so essentially what we're talking about is, would you be interested in a photo shoot in September, and should we have it in sunrise or sunset? Just let David know.
What would the date be for that, Randy?
Pardon? We don't have
Is there a
date
date
yet,
that
but it's usually,
it would be any date? Okay.
it could be the first Saturday or the second Saturday. I don't have well, there's a calendar. Let me see. Yeah, the first Saturday would be the 4th, probably the second Saturday, the 11th would be a good time for that.
Because the 4th is the Labor Day weekend, so people
Yeah,
might not be around.
That would not be a good idea. Let's say let's say we do it on the 11th. Would you be interested in coming? I'm going to write this down.
Works for me.
You know, let me just say one thing. If you're sending me a message, Randy said sunrise or sunset, but if you don't want to do one, maybe say that also, because
Yeah, then we'll know where everybody's at with it.
yeah, I don't know how to interpret a whole bunch of nothing. So
Was that all that was left? I'm not very hungry, but it was a very interesting other side of the story. There always is, isn't there?
all right. Hello, somebody has their microphone on.
Yeah, got to turn your microphone on when it's some spooky thing, like what you have for dinner.
I wanted a carbohydrate, so I had another piece of my toast. Nice. And maybe I'll have those apples.
And just for,
Yeah, there's. right
for
there.
all of you to know, we haven't had a photo shoot in almost 2 years.
And I found some.
Okay, excuse me. I don't know who's got,
I've never seen stuffed pasta shells.
okay.
It's
who's-
Becky
Ever, so I
Hawkins.
bought some.
Is it-
Very excited.
It's Becky.
Like that
Becky?
much, is that
Okay.
too much?
Hang on.
Go ahead. That's pretty al dente.
Why can't I cut her off?
Is that
Okay,
okay?
moving right
That's fine.
It's
along.
not cooked enough? Oh.
It's not cooked a whole bunch. You may not like it. It might go.
Okay, there we go. I couldn't get to the mute button, sorry.
Okay, let's talk a little, let me talk a little bit about Ask the Experts and get your interest in it, but also to answer any questions you have about what it is we're trying to do. All of us have questions about photography. Sometimes it's camera, sometimes it's composition, and oftentimes we need help. We search online, Google, YouTube, but sometimes you can't find the answer. And I'll step right up and say, sometimes I'm embarrassed to admit that I don't have the answer, because it seems like everybody around me knows what the answer is. I soon found out that wasn't necessarily the case. I get confused quite a bit on things that sometimes I talk to people and they say, oh yeah, that's easy. And then I feel like a fool. And some peer mentors have talked to me about this problem, that they had a question that they wanted to ask somebody, but they felt kind of intimidated because it seemed like everybody knew. And oftentimes I would answer that with, I don't know what the answer to that is. So when I last, what was it, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, David, that we had a executive committee of the Teton Photography Club, and a number of us, meaning people that are in the Teton Photography Club executive committee, but also our peer mentors, we talked with a group about the importance of finding a way to answer questions that people had, that people were members of the, not just peer mentors, but the club itself. And so we played around with a whole bunch of ideas and finally came up with the idea of putting up something called what Michael came up with was Ask the Experts. And the idea behind Ask the Experts is to ask people in the Teton Photography Club to send a question, and I'll share the place to share it in a little bit. Share a question, and you will never be, let's say it was Charlotte that had a question that she wanted to have answered, because I know she never has any questions. And she wants to ask a question, but she thinks it's silly. But she can send this question into this email. I think it's ask a question and then at tetonphotographyclub.org. And David, are you the one that's collecting the questions?
I am.
How many questions have you gotten so far?
13.
Oh, good. We could deal with 20, 30 questions. And what we'll do is find out some people that have some expertise that would be willing to take the time at that September 15th, I think it is, meeting to answer your question. We need your help. We need to have a variety of questions. And there aren't any good or bad questions. There's all kinds of questions that you could answer, and we'll be respectful of that, not tell whose question it is, but we'll try to find somebody to find the answer. David, without saying here are the 11 or 13 or whatever it is, what kind of questions have you gotten so far?
Well, I mean, it's been a little all over the place.
Good.
So it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, some are very detailed. Some are very high level. I think we have one that we're going to have to dig for somebody to answer. It's pretty long, detailed, but most of them are fairly direct, but things I think everybody's run into. Like I said, one of them is extremely specific, but the rest of them are, I think, again, like I said, things that everybody's run into at one time or another. So.
Yeah, just don't feel oh God, that's silly. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
I have found more than a dozen times things I thought were silly that everybody knew it but me. And I found out that most people didn't know it. And we've got to share that. That's one of the things I've really felt good about when we had face-to-face in the peer mentor, that we had a little bit of time, and we'll try to do that once we get those again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any questions that anybody would roll their eyes out and go, I can't believe they asked that. So, I mean, they're all straightforward, well thought out questions.
And you could ask more than one question.
Yep.
Because there's probably going to be some overlap between questions. And then we'll count on David to put them together and make pretty similar questions. Any questions about Ask the Experts? No? So are you already afraid to look silly about asking your questions about asking questions? Okay, here's, oh, I want to point out something. This right here, experts at tetonphotographyclub.org. I realized when I was making this program that on the email I sent you, I made this mistake of the address is wrong. It's experts at Teton Photography Club. But I send you somehow the C at a club got missed. Okay, quick thing about the rules. Get them to me by noon today. I got a bunch of them between 9 and 12, which was perfectly okay because I was at home. But you can send them a little bit earlier. That helps me. You can use any kind of camera. You can use any kind of software. Make sure you do your homework with the themes. I got some response from people, this time was kind of fun actually, that they said, whoa, this was a whole lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And I said to those people, hey, take a look at the articles, because Sue had sent some really good articles. Here's how we're going to vote. Voting for the minimalist theme, this month's theme, should reflect the theme, not just necessarily your favorite photo. And I think I learned a lesson last week as a teacher. I've been a teacher all my life. And I found what we did last week was a really good way to approach this, what's kind of a problem, not knowing exactly what to do in terms of helping you do a better job of voting. So what we're going to do is take some pictures that are kind of on borderline, that people, what I did was the first 5 people, I think it was first 5 people that sent me a picture for the theme. I said, can you give me another picture that you thought might be okay, but you didn't really like so much? And it turned out those 4 or 5 people sent me pictures. And what I've done is I put them together so you could see the 2 of them and decide, which one do you like? Why do you like one, not another? I think that seeing mistakes is a good way to learn. So here's the basic information that I think we should talk about a little bit actually before we see those pictures. First question, what was the most serious challenge for you in creating minimalist photos? And I think kind of the underlying question to this is, what surprised you? Because I think a lot of things people thought, oh, this will be easy. I didn't find out it being easy at all. What do you guys think? Now you got to turn on your speakers.
Well, for me, I did a lot of, is it or isn't it minimalist?
Okay. How did you decide if it was or wasn't, Sue?
It was after a certain point. I mean, one of the, I looked at some YouTube thing on it and I thought, yeah, that's the best way to, the simplest way to look at it. Less is more when it's minimalism. And beyond that, it was just sort of intuitive. We'll find out whether my intuition worked.
I think that has a lot to do with intuition. What about the rest of you? What was the most serious challenge? I'll put my 2 cents worth in. My most serious challenge was getting things not in. I had a lot of times I'd take a picture and then I'd look at, oh man, I didn't realize how this takes away from that picture. What about the rest of you? Charlotte, you were about to talk. You got to turn on your speaker first.
I was just going to say that we live in a very complicated, complex ecosystem here. So it's a little bit difficult to minimize it.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, I was lucky. It was lucky that it rained a lot last week. That helped because
The
it brought in a
fog.
lot of rain clouds. The rain clouds covered stuff that I didn't want in the picture. So that was nice to have the fog and the mist to sort of separate out the subject from anything else. So that was when I took my shot, was when there was a lot of mist that did the job for me.
Okay.
And there are probably a lot of indoor minimalist photo opportunities, but I have a hard time coming up with that kind of creativity. But
Yeah, it's close-up kind of stuff. We've got some. You're going to see some of those.
oh, good.
Anything else? Okay, here's the second question. What did you look for as you survived the smoky month? Rachel has already kind of said some of it. The smoke helped. What else? I'll tell you what, one of the things I looked for was over on our side of the mountains. This is really the time that farmers, because if you've ever spent any time over here, we got a ton of farmers over here. And they were cutting down all their fields. And I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be really good. This is going to add big, wide open fields and it didn't turn out that way. And then it started raining and then they stopped doing their fields. What else did you guys find? Do you want to get home before it gets dark, guys? You got to talk.
Mostly, it
I
was
look
just
for-
a lot of work, for something that's supposed to be minimal. It took a whole lot more work to me than a lot of the other themes did.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, we
When
don't
I
have
was-
really, I'm sorry, Becky, go ahead.
When I was out in the smoke, I was looking for something that might be popping up in the smoke, that might be a singular thing, whether it was a tree or an animal or flower, whatever, that would lend itself to this minimalist type of photo. So that's what I was looking for when I was out in the smoke.
Yeah, I was looking for like a barn or something like that you could only see part of it, and I never did see that. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I was just gonna say, we don't have those big wide open vistas that kind of make it a little easier for a minimalistic sort of thing. You see a lot of them at the beach, stuff like that, where you have this big wide open area and you can just add, pick one thing that's in there. We don't really have that here, so it's a bit more challenging.
It's a little better on this side, but you've really got to go to Teutonia, to Rexburg, goes a ways to get that kind of environment. Okay, what were the critical ingredients that a minimalistic photo needs to have? This is a tougher
They
question.
still need a center of interest.
Okay.
I believe.
An
Something
interesting
that grabs
subject.
your attention.
An interesting subject.
Mhm.
A lot of
Becky,
negative
what makes
space.
the subject, in a minimalist, what makes the subject interesting?
I think something that catches your eye.
Okay,
Seeing something in a new way.
yeah, that's a good one, seeing something in a new way. Something that stands out that's very different to everything around them. Okay, and this is on the opposite. What characteristics had a negative impact? That is, what did you find when you looked at your image when you got home and it's like, oh, wow, this isn't a good ingredient for the minimalist photo. And what did you do to overcome it?
I think for me, what wasn't a good ingredient was just suddenly something that took your focus away from what was supposed to be the focal point. And that's the whole point of minimalism. You're not supposed to be looking at a bunch of different things.
Yep. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because you'll see it in the next slide. One of those for me was that I'm so used to taking photos, landscape photos particularly, that have an horizon on it. And sometimes that horizon kills the minimalist photo because your eye is drawn to that when you really shouldn't be looking at that. Anything else? Okay. Last month, there's some of you haven't been here before, I think. Most of you have, but some of you hadn't. What we did was we voted on, there were 14 photos. And what we did was we voted once. And then what we did was the pictures that weren't in the top 3, 4, 5, we talked about them. And it was different because I also had, I think, 3 different people that sent me 2 pictures. And they said, well, I like A, but B, I don't like that one so much. And so what we did was we talked about essentially the B photos before we did any voting. And that's what we're going to do today. I think that we can learn from taking a look at things that are wrong as opposed necessarily to things that are right. So we're going to take a look at, I think, a pair of 3 different photos, something like that. Okay, so which of these photos, oh, I get this thing sticking at the top, move it to the bottom. Okay, which of these photos is a better example of minimalism and why? I picked 2 that I don't think particularly, one of them that I decided wasn't a minimalist photo. The other one is somebody else that sent it to me that sent in another picture. What do you think?
Well, the top one's kind of got too much going on. It's got, you know, leading lines out to the tractor. It's got the sky. It's got, you know, all the colors in the sky, kind of a pseudo sunset. There's a lot going on there, and I'm not even sure what the subject is.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
That's a good point, Kim.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure what your eye is supposed to go toward.
Because you bounce around.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the other photo?
Well, definitely it's monochromatic, and so there aren't so many colors drawing your eye.
Okay. Think of the comparison between the one in the upper left-hand corner and the one in the lower right-hand corner. They're almost the exact opposite. There's too much in the upper left-hand corner because you're bouncing around and looking at the sun and looking at the tractor and you're distracted. The one in the lower right-hand corner, you're kind of distracted, but there isn't any singular thing to look at.
Yeah, Randy, I think you just said it right. I mean, the ridge line, you just keep bouncing around on the ridge line. And for minimalist photography, it's usually you have one central point that you're drawn to. And somebody mentioned negative space, and then there's a tremendous amount of negative space to go ahead and complement that. And I just don't see that in that lower image. It's monochromatic, but the ridge line and the clouds kind of bounce you around, and so it fits more as a landscape as opposed to a minimalist for me.
For me, in both of these pictures, the question in my head is, what am I supposed to look at? And I didn't think that much about it before we had this minimalist theme, that it was that important. Sure, I like to pick pictures that took your eye back, like the one with the tractor, but there has to be a very clear something that you keep looking at, and neither of these pictures have them. Wait a second. So what you describe, either one, we've done that already. What you think is wrong, we've done that. So let's move to the next picture. Here's a pair of pictures. What adds or takes away key minimalistic characteristics in each of these? These are harder.
Well, this is Barney, Randy, and so the one in the upper left, I mean, having three subjects in the image, I mean, I'm looking for one subject in a minimalist, and the three trees, especially the two on the right and the one on the left, again, it's like the landscape. For me, I'm kind of bouncing around, and I'm not just focused on, you know, the traditional, raspberry, blueberry in the cream kind of image, which I think is classic minimalist photography.
Okay. So it really has to be one thing to look at, not to try to figure out what the thing is that you should look at. What do the rest of you think?
I think that there's nothing appealing about the one in the bottom right corner. There's nothing that grabs my interest. It looks like a shadow through a grate or a window, but it doesn't really do anything for me. So
It's more of an abstract design than a minimalist photo, isn't it?
Exactly.
I
yeah.
agree with that. Yes.
That's the question I have. Is a minimalist, is an abstract photo not a minimalist photo? Because there's not a thing to look at here. Except,
Well, I don't think those are mutually exclusive, or you can have an abstract that's minimalist or vice versa, but they're not the same thing.
right, yeah.
There's so
I mean-
much texture on that bottom one, has so much texture with all the different colors and those spots. It's just not minimalist to me at all.
Looks like maybe a sidewalk that the sun came through a window or something, or a grating. It made me think about what it was, but I didn't look at one thing.
So
would be a good-
go ahead.
I was just going to say it would be a good photograph perhaps for if our subject had been shadow.
Oh, yeah.
So is a quality of minimalism also that it's in some way evocative? Because that lower right-hand one doesn't evoke anything as far as I'm concerned.
I don't have the answer for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just tossing it out there.
Okay. Now, here's a different problem. These are similar, but you probably prefer one over the other. Why? What makes one of them up? Because this fits the minimalism. Both of these pictures fit what we've talked about in terms of minimalism. You look at kind of one thing, but why is one better than the other?
For me, it's a combination. So in the upper left, there's a lot of negative space. And the lower portion of the photograph there has almost no detail. Somehow the detail on the lower right on the landscape is distracting.
Okay. So which one do you prefer, Sue?
The upper left.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to say also not necessarily the minimalism thing, but the bottom right one, the paraglider's kind of too low in the picture. So he's kind of flying out of the picture rather than up in it. And the top left one definitely fits more of the theme for this month.
Okay.
With a lot more negative space where, yes, you have a subject, but it's not quite so in your face like the other one.
Okay. Anybody prefer the one on the lower right?
Yeah, I do. I think the larger image of the paraglider gets you to focus on the paraglider and not pay much attention to what amounts to negative space, including the landscape underneath. Whereas on the upper left, the paraglider is small enough that it doesn't stand out from all of the landscape stuff. And so now you've got more than one thing to look at.
I agree. I like the lower right too, but I remember maybe it was Tim's comment that the paraglider, if it was moved up a little bit to the right, it would be better because it is kind of fallen off the picture. But what I like about it is the glider on the top, there's a little bit of a reflection that grabs my attention. That's not really there in the upper left-hand corner. Anybody else got any other things?
Well, I think the upper one gives you it may not fit our theme that well, but I think it's a very effective photograph because it makes you feel that all that space around that glider and the vast country that it's sailing over. To me, that's evocative, kind of scary.
It's a story. He's way out there. Yeah, I didn't know. I think so. Okay, anything else? I think this is the exact example. So what would you say are essentials from what you've read in the articles, from these pictures, from your actual experience doing it? Because I would imagine a third of the people that are here haven't sent in a picture. Those of you who did send in a picture, who have gone out for minimalism, what are the essential parts that you think are the most important?
Some
Well, I
sort
think-
of simplicity in the photograph.
Okay,
I was just going to say one subject where there's nothing else in the picture that you even think about. It's like you look at the picture and you say, okay, I know what this is about, and there's nothing else distracting in it.
I'd like to add to that because I agree with that, Tim. I would add, and it tells you or invites you to think about a story about it. Like for this upper left-hand corner, the story is, where's he gonna go? It's kind of scary, kind of a thing. What else are the
I think-
essentials?
Like what Becky said before, negative space.
Lots of negative space.
But yeah, I guess I want to go back to Barney's comment because that example of a raspberry and a field of blueberries, I don't think it has to be empty space. It just has to be something that stands out from everything else that you see.
Okay, could be by color or could be by action,
Yeah.
but it makes you, it invites you to look at that. Okay. Okay, what we're doing is moving on to the minimalist photos. There are, I think, 13 of them. So if you look at this here, we have 13. So for those of you that haven't been here the last couple months, what we've got is 13 pictures. We're going to vote on those 13 pictures and everybody's going to get here 4 votes. You're going to send them to David. David, you want to tell us what you want with that?
It's preferable that if you do them privately, otherwise everybody will see your vote. And just put a comma in between one. Don't send them as 4 separate messages. Send them as one message.
Okay. And try to get them in pretty soon. We've got 13 images. What we'll do is David will do me a big favor and keep track of them and let me know what the vote is the first time around. And then what we'll do is save 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how close the vote is, for images that we'll vote on again, where you'll only get 1 vote. But all the other pictures, let's say there's 10 of them, those other pictures, we'll critique them before we go on to the second vote, because we have found out over the last 3 or 4 months that it's really valuable for everybody that submits a photo to get some feedback. And most of the time, that person, we won't know whose picture it is, but if somebody wants to say, oh, and that's my picture, and this is why I did it, that would be fine. But for the time being, okay. I've got to switch you guys. Wait, oh, here it is. So now I'm going to share this. Wait a minute. Oh, here it is. So are you guys seeing Lightroom?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I can open this up. I can move this over. Okay, here's what we got. 13 photos, and I'm going to show them to you one at a time. Wait a second here. And tell me if it's not filling up the screen, because I've had some problems with that. Start with this. No, I think you should. Does this fit your completely fit your screen? Yes.
Yes.
No? Yes. Okay. Whoops. Whoops. Shoot.
Okay, everybody vote now.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, let's start with this one. Full screen. Okay, this is number 1. You're going to see a real variety of photos. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. This is 6. This is 7. This is 8. This is 9. This is 10. This is 11. This is 12. This is 13. So here are, can you see all 13 of those pictures? Guys, I need your help.
Yes,
You can see
Yes.
all 13 of them?
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go through them again a second time. Remember, you've got 4 votes, right? 4 votes? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, turn your votes in to David. When I did these, I was amazed at how different these were.
How many places do you want, Randy? 3?
No, it could be 4 or 5. That really doesn't make much difference. I mean, if it's close from the last 4 or 5 times we've done this, it seems like there's one vote difference. Put them together, get a second round.
Okay, I'm going to give you the top 4.
Top 4, okay.
Number 2,
Number 2,
number 7,
number 7,
12, and 13.
12, and 13. Okay, we'll look at those. Let's go now and I can follow this up. Okay, I'm going to show you the pictures that did not make the second vote. What we need to do, and some of these people will be here and some of the people won't be here. That's really not important. What is important is for us to share, well, what did you like and what didn't you like, or what is the strength or what's the weakness of each of these pictures? So what do you think about number 1?
Well, I thought this was actually my favorite, but I didn't think it fit the theme. I thought it was an abstract, not a minimalist.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to say.
Yeah,
if
I
this-
agree with David.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think it's okay. Just if this was patterns or textures or something different, this would have been my first choice. It's a really cool image, but it's not, there's a lot going on in that image.
There is that line that goes across it, but it doesn't tell my soul what to look for or what it is. It's just interesting, the whole thing. Yeah, I agree with all the comments that you guys have made. It doesn't seem, guys, gals, doesn't seem to meet really the minimalist rules. I don't have a better word for it, I don't think. What about the rest of you?
I like the mystery of it, and I knew it wasn't minimalist, but I loved it anyway. So, but it's mysterious. I mean, I just really like this a lot.
Yeah, I really want to know where it was taken, and it looks
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with what everybody's saying. When I look at it, I like it, and my eyes keep moving around in the picture, looking at different parts of it. And I think that's sort of a definition of not minimalist.
Yeah, yeah. And if it was abstract, I don't remember that we've had abstract as one of the themes. One of the things I'm thinking when I look at this is, what is this? What is this? I suppose with abstract, that's probably a good thing, but not a good thing with minimalist. Yeah. Okay. That's one. Here's number 3. What do you think about this one? Very different than the first one.
It's a very intriguing photograph. I guess it's high key. The photographer was doing high key photography, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I had trouble deciding if it fit.
It's minimalist or not.
Yeah.
The thing I like about this picture is there's no clear edges to him. Like his cap, I keep looking, oh yeah, there is a top to that. It just blends in, except for his face. So in a sense, that is kind of minimalist, I guess, because that's what I look at is his face. Once I've looked about his hat, once I've looked about his shirt, my eyes are drawn to his face.
But there's so much to look at in it. Like I'm seeing this thing on his right arm, like he has an artificial arm. And so there's a whole lot to this photograph. I don't know that it's minimalist. I love this photograph, but minimalist, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked at that right arm too. In fact, I'm still looking at it. I can't quite figure out what it is.
So I like this a lot as a minimalist photo, but I take the comment about his right arm and I just held up a piece of paper and cropped it out, and then it definitely looks minimalist and I think a very intriguing way where you're really led directly to his face.
I just did that. Yeah, you're right. It's because I'm wondering about that bottom part when I should just be looking at his face. Interesting. Good call. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
It's awesome.
Yeah, who took the photo?
Yeah.
Looks like he's on a horse, right? And those
Yeah,
are the
this
reins.
is Barney. This is Barney. Yeah, I took this image at the cow cutting competition during the fair, and this is certainly an old cowboy who lost an arm somewhere along the way, and but I thought his face was just too good to pass up.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great photo.
Barney, did you make the photograph in high key or did you do this in post processing?
No, I had he's sitting up on a horse in the fairground, so and the visualization was to put him onto a white background and then have him kind of emerge from that background to try and tie into the minimalist theme. And I never even thought about cutting out cutting out his arm, but I do like that. That's a great suggestion.
I just think there's something about his expression. I'm trying to think of how to describe it, but wow.
It's like, what is he thinking about?
Yeah, it's
Well,
extraordinary.
yeah, and it was, I had one with his eyes open and one with his eyes closed, and this one just kind of won hands down because he's like the thinker, you know, sitting
Yeah.
on the horse just thinking about things.
Hmm.
I'd like, if anybody knows who it is, I've put some feelers out to some of my horse friends here in town. So if anybody knows who it is, please pass on his name. I'd love to get him see if he wanted a copy of it.
So what did you do, Barney, in post-processing to flatten out everything, including his shirt and hat? I mean, it's really, I really like that, particularly for portraits. Can you do it in a minute without going into all kinds of detail?
Well, okay, just at a very high level, one had to do. You have to take him out of the photograph because out of the original image because of the fairgrounds and all of the stuff that's behind him. And you also have to look for somebody that has kind of white clothing, because there were some people that had striped clothing, and you try something like this, it just doesn't work. But he was in predominantly a white clothing, so you know, you kind of look at it and say, okay, this could work. But once he's out and then placed onto a canvas, then it's a matter of just toning everything in, and then masking in his face and the skin tones basically in order to bring it out. So there was a bit more, but that's kind of like the high level.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to make this work. So
I think it's a beautiful photograph. I mean, that's something you could hang on a wall and look at for a long time.
Particularly if it was like your grandpa or something like that. Somebody in your family, he looks like he'd be fun to talk to because he's so thoughtful. Okay,
yeah.
Next one.
Arnie, you could give us a workshop on how to do that kind of photography. I'd come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody
happy
could
to do it.
Somebody could submit that as a question.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
Okay.
Okay, next, we got to move along here. Okay, next. What do you think about this one?
Oh, I didn't look for this one. I think it works great.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a weird halo around the moon. Assuming that's the moon. But that could be just the way they uploaded it. But I think this works great. You got just the foregrounds kind of hazed out, and the moon is obviously your subject, and there's a bunch of negative space around the moon. So I love this image.
I do too. And I thought it was the sun because I've seen a bunch of them on my side that the sun has looked just like that with this really, really heavy smoke. But I like that there's so much negative space. You see the mountain, but it really is a negative space kind of a thing.
I really like this one, and it reminds me of several photos I took yesterday morning of the sunrise and a lot of smoke, and that was the color of the sun. And I got a halo around it as well on the raw image, only the halo was white. But when I converted it to JPEG, that white went away for some reason. My question is I can't decide if the very bottom of the picture with the outlines of the trees and bushes and whatever, if that's a little bit too distracting, and what it would look like with that cropped out.
I like that one because all it does is tells me where this was taken in a general sense, but I don't look at it a lot. I look at the sun or the moon, whichever that is.
I just took that suggestion and picked up my piece of paper again and cropped out the bottom, and I think it improves it a lot.
Oh,
It
really?
makes it much more a minimalist image. My eye keeps bouncing between the sun or the moon, whatever it is, and the trees at the bottom.
Would it make it, did you take out all of the shadows in the bottom or just
Nope.
the very dark ones with that you could see the edges of the trees?
Just the very dark ones.
Oh, okay.
But feel free to pick up a piece of paper and.
I already did it.
Yeah, I agree with Sydney. I did the same thing. And because I think those trees in the foreground give a heaviness to the bottom. So it's hard not to drop your eye toward it.
Good point, guys. Okay. What about this one?
I like this one. It is, I think it is minimalist. I would have loved to have seen the road more on a diagonal.
I mean, like a curve?
Yeah, or diagonally, you know,
You mean
shot.
just off, you would have moved off to the side a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you know, having it begin from the bottom right or bottom left corner and go in the opposite direction a little bit.
I particularly like the use of negative space in that one. It just, to me, really helps direct your eye to the point of focus.
Finding myself using Sid's idea all the time. What happens if it make it so that the road doesn't completely cover left to right, but you cut off the bottom 6th or 7th, so it's just the road is only part of a road. Gives it more attention to the sky.
This would also be a good photograph if our topic had been vanishing point. We had vanishing point once, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Anything else?
Randy, I had to step away for just a second, so I missed some of the comments. But one of the things I love this photograph because it reminds me of essentially doing some long exposures in order to get that sky to kind of be that mottled gray that it is. What was just missing for me in this is I just wonder what the image would look like if the photographer were one step to the left and that road was just kind of more straight down the road. It seems like it's a little bent off to the right to me. But that's a minor point. I really like whoever did this. It's one of my favorites.
It does take you into the story. You follow the road, and for those of us that have been living here, you know when it was taken because there weren't many days in the last month where it was wet outside. And the road is clearly wet. Anything else? Okay, what about this one?
This one fits, but I would have kind of taken it so the canoer was down a little lower.
I agree.
You know, kind of, he's a little almost off. He's almost out of the picture, which is a little, doesn't quite work for me.
It doesn't work for me either because it's about him and the 2 little children in there. But yeah, it should be down, or maybe 1/3 of the way down into the picture, from my perspective. But I like it that it's an adult with 2 children. I think that kind of tells the story. And they all have their hats on except for the little girl. And it kind of tells me what the weather is like.
You know, you could cut off the bottom half of this and I think it would still have the same effect.
Yeah, that black line on the right-hand side, cut that one off. Okay. Wait a second. Wait a second. So this one. Okay. What do you think about this one?
I think that's great. It's a single point of focus, and I love the colorfulness, unlike really pretty much all of the other ones.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that the clouds in the background sort of help to frame it, but they're not distracting. I don't think it would have been as effective with just a dead blue sky. And I love that flame.
Yeah, the flame is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing I think about this one, because I agree with you, Sue, is the balloon is a little too big for me. It kind of dominates the picture. And I don't know why I would say that in a minimalist, because you want somebody to look at just part of it. But I think if it was a little bit smaller, it would be a better picture. And I do like the flame inside, because I've listened to these on 4th of July over here, and I can hear the sound of that flame going off. Anybody else? Oops, cow. This is it. This is the difference one. What do you guys think?
I like it. I think it fits the theme. Although it's, I don't know if those are cherries or berries, probably berries. I was trying to decide if there were too many of them and that was distracting, but I really don't think so, because you're still looking at the same thing. And there's still plenty of negative space that's blurred, so it's not distracting from it.
And you have the one cherry that you see the whole cherry. And I think that makes a difference.
I'm using the Sydney technique on it. And I think it would have been improved to take off part of the top so there isn't quite so much stem.
You know, I'm struggling with those words here, but it's certainly an isolated subject. But I'm not, I don't know, maybe that's too isolated. So.
You think it's not a traditional minimalist picture?
I'm trying to figure out what the reference is beyond looking at some berries.
So just looking at some berries is okay with me as part of the minimalist theme and attractive in its own right. But and I'm actually talking here about nature rather than the photograph. That if it was just the cluster of berries without the single isolated one, I think I'd like it better. Or if it was just a single isolated one without the cluster, I think I'd like it better. But having both of them in the photograph makes me look back and forth again.
Yeah. Anything else?
If there's somebody in the group that really understands color theory, I'd certainly love to hear 'em. But when I look at this, I'm looking at two complementary colors. I'm looking at green and red, and I always thought that we should be very careful when we use complementary colors in a photograph as the dominant, and not colors that are kind of, so in other words, if the background were more yellow, I'm wondering what that would feel like.
It would stand out more.
Well, I don't know, Randy, but there's something about this that just doesn't sit right, and I'm kind of lost in that background, and then I have to come up to the berries. So that anyway, it's.
Okay. Anybody have any comments about this one?
But you certainly know what the focal point is.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if there's too much on the top. It's almost as though there's a proportion issue in here.
I'm almost wondering if the photographer had gotten down lower, so that sign would be up more and you'd actually have more of that field behind you and less of the dark in the foreground, if that would change things.
That's a good point.
I'd also like to see this in a monotone.
Like a black and white?
Yeah.
I think I'd like.
I think the green lines lines in the field wouldn't draw me away.
I'd like it better if the photographer's position was lower, but more importantly, if the sign was closer to the lower right-hand corner. And it still would be clearly the subject, but the background would seems to me be more symbolic or emblematic of a minimalist photograph.
Because it's too busy?
Yeah, it's too busy, and it's the focal point is too big for what it is. It's really easy to read that sign, even if it's smaller.
Well, this is mine. I went back to this site 3 or 4 times to take pictures, because the thing that really grabbed my attention about this theme was the story behind it. And I went to lots of different fields that people were cutting the hay with. And I thought, this really says a lot about what the people here on this side of the mountain, they're really big about private property. And I did go up and down to take the picture. The reason I did it this way is I didn't want the post to be at the spot where the hay went from yellow to green. It was a bit of a challenge, and I could have gone the 5th or 6th time, I suppose. But whoever said it, I think, said about the sign being smaller. That when I finished it, I thought, yeah, I should have used a wider angle lens and make that smaller. But then up at the top, that became then the trees, and I didn't want to get those involved.
I do like the suggestion of trying it black and white.
Whoops. Hang on a second. Yeah, black and white. I'll have to try that and see.
Yeah,
Randy, the other thing you might want to try is just try cropping off some of the bottom and see if you like that as well.
Mhm.
And
Actually,
FYI,
oh, go ahead, David.
oh, I was just gonna say, that's a wheat field, not a hay field. Just FYI.
I'm not sure it's and I'm not arguing with you about it, but my wife tells me all these different things because she's got a horse, and she would say it's not it's something else because it's not that far away from her house, but I can't.
I will guarantee you that is a wheat field.
Okay.
The one other thing, Randy, you could try, just, we don't have to go back to it, but just lightening up the foreground. Just bring the exposure up a little bit so there's not that
Dark green.
break between the dark green and the light green. It's not as big of a break there, not as big of a line. And that's only for our theme more than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Here's the next one.
Well, I love this one. It's fits the theme. I love the silhouette, and actually that they did it as a silhouette kind of is better. The little pine tree at the bottom is minorly distracting, but not too bad. They probably could have even cloned that out, but I love this image.
Yeah, I agree, and with all those comments, and I think removing that pine tree at the bottom and its branches would just really enhance this. I love it.
And I like that you can see his mouth is a little bit open. Bill is a little bit open. Beak is a little bit open.
So I took this image and quite frankly, I thought it was a stretch to fit the theme, but the other ones I had taken were actually right before the theme was announced. And so they didn't fit the time frame. But
you're a good boy, David.
Yeah, but and I'll tell you why I thought this was a stretch. I mean, it's obviously also a silhouette, so yeah, it's a single theme, but I had some others that I thought fit the theme more, but I didn't like the pictures as much. But this is where I struggled with the minimalist thing. Just because you isolate a subject, is it minimalist? And that's my question. I mean,
isolate a subject against white, or
yeah.
against,
so I mean, I shot him against I shot him. He was against a bright sky, so it was very easy to, whiten up the sky. But my question for the group: does it really fit the definition? But like I said, I like the photo. I just had trouble with the definition. That's why I put it in to see what everybody else's thoughts were.
David, I'm biased to white backgrounds, as you know. So I think it fits for that's worth 2 cents.
Well, I gotta say,
I really do. I like that, and just the subtleties as Randy pointed out with the beak just being a little bit open. Again, if those bottom that pine tree, clone that out and take a look at it. I think this is a great image. I really like it.
And I got to say, Barney, just back on your cowboy, this was a young eagle. If he'd had a white head, I would have, but he didn't have the white head of a adult. I would have loved it to have that white part showing,
showing the texture of it.
Well, yeah, you could have well, I'm pointing at the screen, but nevertheless.
This right here.
Yeah, that part right there. If his head had been white, I could have popped out a little of that, but it wasn't. So
Okay, to get us in, there are 4 pictures, 1, 7. I don't want to keep us here too late. Wait a second here, gonna move you guys away. 12. And 13. Yeah. Shoot. Dang. I'll do this. Rated 1. Now I move you guys over. Oops. Shoot. Oh no. Rated 1, okay. Okay, here are the 4. Now you only get 1 vote. I'll go through these again, put them each big, and then send your second vote to David. Here's, and oh, wait. Now the number has changed. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3. This is number 4. Now, wait a second, then I'll give you another round of much bigger. One, 2, 3, 4. And you get 1 vote. Send them off to David. Send your vote, singular, off to David. How are you coming, David?
I'm recounting, just checking things.
Yeah, we want to recount. We don't want to have a mistake. That's happened before.
Okay, Spanky. How do you
Yeah.
want 'em?
Fourth place. Or do
Well, we have a tie
some-
for third and fourth,
Okay.
and it's 3 and 4.
Okay, so these are, let's look at them one at a time. Hey, what do you think about this one?
I thought it fit the theme exactly.
I did
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Classic minimalist.
And no, I really like the photo. I'd
yeah.
also be curious what it would look like in black and white.
Yeah.
I like the single point of focus, and with it, tremendous depth in that image.
I'm kind of stuck on stories. I think this one has a story because it wouldn't be quite, I agree, it's a great minimalist photo. Photo is kind of your classic one, but it looks like there's an old road down the middle here that now isn't used anymore. And it's like, it's telling the story of this is old. This isn't what it used to be 40 years ago or whatever, and there's the only tree that's left. That's just kind of how I'm looking at pictures now about the story related to them.
Yeah, there's something a little bit forlorn about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
would be
think
the same without those clouds, because those were kind of sad looking clouds.
Yeah, I think you could actually turn it into a pano and cut off the top quarter or third of the sky, and it would be even better.
And right along here.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I think the lines in the middle I think that's a ditch, or it used to be a ditch, not a road for irrigation maybe at some point. That's taken in Jackson, over by Mormon Row or wherever.
Oh,
Just a few hours after our meeting was canceled.
After you had driven, really? Oh, because I thought it rained the whole time. Over
No, it was the next day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was there or whatever. Yeah, and after looking at all the other images, I think I really like the clouds on this image, but I think they're distracting after looking through the other images, because I look at them.
I was just going to suggest that this would be a great location with a sky like that, and to throw on a neutral density filter and shoot this for about 8 or 10 minutes.
Right.
And get those clouds into more of a streak. I think that the setting is just perfect. Really like this.
I like that the horizon here is simple. It seems like every time I took one of these pictures, there was this nasty horizon, and the only way to get rid of it, only way to not have people look at the horizon, was to eliminate it. But you've done a really nice job of, that horizon seems like it's 10 miles away.
Yeah,
Which direction is it going?
Because it's 10
You're
miles
looking
away.
east or west.
Are you asking me? I don't know which direction I'm shooting here.
I
think
would guess
I'm going north, I think.
I think you're shooting north, right?
Yeah.
No, I really like this as your basic, simple minimalist. And if it's out by Mormon Road, then that probably is a trench that They used to get water for their crops 100 years
Yeah,
ago.
I'm guessing, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, oops, wait a second here. Okay, here is, oh boy, wait a second, how do I? Oh, there we go, okay. What do you think about this one, guys, gals?
It's very Zen-like, and I like it.
I love the simplicity of it.
I
Nice
like it. It's
diagonal.
not black and white. It's kind of blue, but
It's monochromatic, yeah.
yes, monochromatic, yeah.
And it, to me, it breaks the rule of not having something in the center, but it absolutely works here. And I really like that diagonal line.
Yeah.
Yeah, who shot that?
Rachel?
That's mine. So I shot that on Saturday after I'd watched 399, and then I went looking for the marmots down Pilgrim Creek Road. And that was the view to the left of the road when the clouds had just come in and settled on the pine trees. So I took it with a 1:400. I'm not sure, it could have even been like 300 mil. It was a telephoto zoomed right in and cropped. Yeah.
The cropping really makes it a lot better because it simplifies it.
Yeah.
I really like the photo.
Anything else? Okay, we're down to 2. Which is first and which is second?
So second is number 2.
Whoops. I really like this one. I don't know if it's your classic example of minimalist, but I like everything. And I look at this little guy. Perfect.
What is that, by the way? What kind of a little critter is that? And I know it's a silly comment, but it's just flat cute.
Lewis, this is a Lewis picture that Lewis took up in Alaska. He's been gone for the last 2 weeks. I'll have to ask him.
So it could be a seal.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think he actually sent me an email that said what it was.
Well, this has nothing to do with minimalism, but I love the side eye he's given the person who took the picture.
What are you taking a picture of me for?
Yeah, it looks like a seal. I was trying to work out what's that doing in the Snake River, but it's if it's from Alaska, then it's probably a seal.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I went, that's not an otter. Well, it's definitely not a beaver. Well, what the
No,
heck?
it's a snake. It's a Snake River seal.
Yeah.
Just like the Snake River gorillas.
Okay. And I like the color of it too. The green just stands out the seal or whatever it is. Anything else? I think the lines set him off. And so here is, and the winner is, what do you think about this one?
I really love this photo. It's just so perfect. It's such a beautiful composition. Your eyes drawn straight to those tanks or silos, and I like the fact that the sky is not blown out, that there's still a little bit of texture from the clouds, but nothing that's too distracting. And the depth of field is such that you zoom straight onto those silos and those sheds, and then you start sort of looking around the darker grass, but I think it's just perfect. I love it.
I agree. And the light on the top of the sheds even adds to it. But from the very front of the picture, all the way through any of the wheat, is it wheat, David?
That is definitely wheat.
But all of that is sharp focus, but the sky isn't, and that really sets it up. I mean, those barn or those, what do you call those?
Silos.
They're so sharp.
But I think if the sky was blown out, I don't think it would work as well. I just like the fact that it's got soft tones
Mhm.
and the fact that those tones are really similar really works. I think if it, and also if it had big fluffy clouds, it wouldn't work either. Do you know what I mean?
It would
Like the
draw your
sky,
attention.
Yeah.
someone, if I would have done sky replacement if I didn't get that sky, because I think it really works with that sky.
You Photoshop stealers.
I think this is pretty close to a perfect picture. And I say picture carefully, not photograph. I think more than anything else we've looked at today, if this was a painting instead of a photograph, I think it'd be accepted more as artwork than things that I might prefer, like the Alaskan, whatever it is, animal. This kind of thing I like to take pictures of. But this looks really like it's a work of art inherently.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, Sid.
Yeah.
Good.
The only thing I would have maybe played with is just cropping off a little of the top, but I don't know.
I think
If I
this
was
is about,
forced- Oh, go ahead.
I think that this is probably one of the most perfect minimalist pictures. And the thing that I like about it is that it is, I think everything is in great proportion. I don't know if I would cut anything off the top. And just because of what it is being wheat fields and then having the silos there, it kind of does tell the story about it's harvest time. And
Yeah.
it is more than just a photo. It does actually tell a story.
Who took the picture?
Sue.
I did, yeah.
Back-to-back home runs, girl.
I'm speechless.
I agree with what people have said. It looks like artwork. It looks like a painting. My parents had a friend that did this kind of artwork. This looks just like the kind of stuff he painted.
And I was lucky. I mean, it was the first day that it rained that we had, and kind of what Rachel was commenting on. There's just barely a little bit of tone in the sky there. And I think without that, so if you're looking at it, at least to me, I kind of sensed a depth that's suggested more than literal.
But
So you can argue that you were lucky, but I'm quite sure that if I was in the same spot, I wouldn't have taken a picture.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Sid. I don't believe in luck. It happens occasionally in sports, but it doesn't happen in photographs.
Yeah.
I have to say, the cover of a particular novel I was forced to read has a young girl laying in the wheat field in this scene.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Was it Wilma Gather? I can't remember the name of it.
I know what you're talking about, though, yeah. Because she's
Yep.
up close.
Yeah. Yep, we could just Photoshop somebody in there. You could have two photos. One with
Was that like a Mills and Boon romance novel, David?
no, it was something. Yeah, I've really gotten into romance novels.
But you said you had to read it, so.
Oh yeah, it was something we had to read in high school. I can't remember.
I think that's an Andrew Wyeth painting.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that is correct. And I think they stole his painting for the cover of this novel.
I think it's Christina's World. Is that the name of the painting, Charlotte?
That's right. Good for you for remembering.
It happens time to time.
This is 4. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting dark and it's late, and we got to have Sue choose Wait a second, I gotta get out of here.
I hate this part.
No, look at me. I think you picked a damn good one for this time.
Yes.
Now we'll see what you can do for next time. New share. Okay. Now you should be able to see this. I'm gonna go right down to this.
Okay, I really believe in doing things by committee.
Hold on a second. Whoops, dang, hold on.
You get camels then.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so the green ones are still open?
The green ones are open.
Ooh,
This, anything is open except for red ones.
okay. So I'm taking suggestions because I'm assuming the smoke is going to be with us till it snows. You know, so I'm thinking vanishing point might be really appropriate, but
Finishing point would be good.
anybody else?
Did Vanishing Point fairly recently, didn't we?
No, we haven't done it in 2021,
We did it in 2020.
probably, but it's always, I do
By
this
year.
based on per year.
Well, what do you like, Charlotte? I'm so wimpy.
You're wimpy, but you do pretty good photographs. I like the vanishing point. I think that's pretty cool.
I agree that the smoke is going to be with us until it snows.
Yep.
So I'm inclined to suggest number 17.
17.
Fog, steam, smoke,
Fog,
yeah.
steam, smoke.
Yeah.
We haven't done that in a long time.
Okay,
So that's what we're gonna pick. That's what you're gonna pick. You and the team.
Charlotte, do you like it?
We have plenty of smoke and we've got Yellowstone with steam and mornings with fog. I think we've got a subject.
All right.
All righty, bingo, that's it.
Okay.
Hey, Randy, would you unshare your screen when you get finished?
Okay, just now, wait a second. I gotta write this down so I don't forget. Fog, steam, and smoke. Okay. So I'm going to turn off this. Okay, I've turned off the screen, I think.
Here we go.
Ah, yes, that's it.
You
That's
found it.
Oh,
Christina's word.
Yeah, and it was Wilma Gather. My Aunt Anita was, but they used that picture on the cover for the book I had. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they had permission or not.
Oh, Willa Cather, that's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
Willa Cather, I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyhow, for whatever that was worth.
Okay. Well,
I
ladies
can-
and gentlemen, you've done a great job tonight. I will do the best I can to get this out tomorrow, but we've got a dentist appointment maybe in Idaho Falls, so I don't know that I can get all this done tomorrow, but I will put this up both on my blog and the Facebook page and the Teton Photography Club page. We'll get lots of stuff up.
And